Yep.
Okay, great. All right, we're good to go. First class club coach, section two is why a club coach is needed. Now, there are two types of coaching qualification required to be a coach. The first one is, in Toastmaster, there are specific requirements that a member must meet before he or she can become a coach. Coaches are Toastmasters who are not members of a struggling club, and preferably not currently familiar with the club or its member. Now, the outside perspective allows the coach to view the club objectively. Although coaches can't be a member of the club at the time of appointment, they may join the club after they have been assigned. Now, to be assigned as a club coach from Toastmasters International, it's very important to understand this. Until you receive the email stating that you have been appointed, if a club is at 12 members and registers another member on the system, the club coach will not be appointed. So it's very important to understand what happens if that happens. Now, up to 2 coaches for each club can be appointed. Now, the district director or club director are the only ones that can request the appointment from Toastmaster International. So in other words, I do all the screening, make sure everybody's doing all right, then I email it, forward it to Melinda, and she's the one that actually sends it to Toastmaster International. So that's the way it works. Now, a club must have at least 1 paid member, but not more than 12 at the time of appointment, like we were saying, but it has to have at least 1. When you have decided to start coaching, you can contact me, the club director, or your district director, Jonathan. We will guide you through the process. Now, coach's qualification number 2. A coach should be an experienced Toastmaster. A bit about my background and when I was first introduced to the concept of coaching. From 1987 to 2004, in that 17-year period, I was involved in 4 business startups and recovered a business from bankruptcy. After being successful with the first 3 businesses, I put everything I had in yard and garden design. I believe I was a good businessman. 4 years later, I went through a bankruptcy. 3 years after going through the psychological grief of losing everything and failing in business, I set out to become a business consultant. I reached out to the consultant firm that I had dealt with when I was in business. They took me in. The first 6 months, I spent studying and learning the tools used for doing business diagnostics, and especially working in business recovery. I never forgot what one of the owners told me at the beginning. He had been a business consultant for quite a time. He told me that even though I had a lot of business experience and also that I had failed in business, and I would probably see things a lot sooner than most people when I was doing a diagnosis in business or checking what was the problem. But he also told me that that would work against me. When you do consulting, it's almost the same. It's the same as doing coaching. And when you're doing something like that, it's not, a coaching role is not the same as managing. And he told me I was going to have a hard time accepting that people will not be trying, that I will be trying to save, would not see what I'm seeing. That I will be trying to convince them and still they would not see. During my study, I realized, that's when I realized business consulting are fancy word for coaching. Coaching is about bringing people to see and discover things themselves rather than trying to convince them. Coaching is about bringing the best out of people. And in turn, these people bring the best out of the club. The same thing as they bring the best out of the business. Now, coaching builds leaders, not followers. When you step in a club as a coach, you are not a manager. You are invited in that club, and at any time, the president of that club can have the club coach appointment revoked. So in other words, anybody that steps in there, it doesn't balance, doesn't have to stay, vice versa. The president doesn't have to keep them. Now, section 2, why do clubs need club coaches? Well, there are many reasons why clubs need club coaches, but today I'm only going to cover two reasons. The first is the club life cycle. Most Toastmaster clubs experience it. The second is to disarm the natural defense mechanism that are at play in a struggling club. Now, if you pull up the Toastmasters International website and you punched in the search bar, how to rebuild a Toastmaster club, you will find this step-by-step guide for club coaches, including possible solution and tactics in rebuilding a Toastmaster club. And it talks about the club life cycle. Even though there are many tools, this one is one of them that's available. Now, most club levels of education productivity, like in the photo. The first phase in the club life occurs during and just after it is originated. The members are motivated, and their enthusiasm generally makes up for their lack of experience. As the education program improves, productivity increases, and the club moves towards the peak of the curve. As the club matures into the second phase, the education program reaches a high level of productivity and successfully meets members' needs. Now, the original club members are now relatively experienced Toastmasters. New members join the club and quickly become assimilated into the club culture. The length of time spent at the top of the curve varies from club to club. Now, at the beginning of the third phase, members become content with the status quo and resist changes and new influences. Now, guests are greeted, but the club internal cliques are sometimes difficult to break into. New members have a hard time fitting in and don't stay long. Productivity declines, and the club slips from the top of the curve and begins a downward slide. Attendance drops, the education program falls apart, and guests do not join the club. Members may at times be more concerned with socializing than learning. Now, if the club continues its downward slide and nears the bottom of the curve, something must be done to keep the club from dissolving. In many cases, a club coach is suggested to help the member revitalize their club. Once Once 12 members or less occur, well before it reaches the bottom. If the efforts are successful, the club productivity will increase and a new cycle will begin. So bottom line is, once you reach 12 or less members, it's time to look for a coach. Now, the second reason why club need club coaches is, what happens to people when they are in a struggling situation or feel some sort of stress or don't know a certain future? When we are struggling, especially in some struggling situation, it is natural to be unconsciously or consciously in defense mode and have defense mechanism playing it out. When these defenses are up, we have a hard time seeing forward because all we see is our struggling situation. The more we see our struggles, the harder it gets to move forward, and eventually we can get mentally stuck. Now, these defense mechanisms can play on us individually or collectively. What I mean by collectively, the more people experience the same struggling situation as a group, the more they will be apt and convince themselves that what is happening is normal. The mind will see what it needs to see to feel safe and secure. An example of one of the most common defense mechanisms at play collectively is denial. As of today, District 45 has 109 active clubs. 89 of these clubs qualify to apply for a club coach. 11 of 89 clubs have a club coach appointed to their club. I have often heard, we don't need a club coach, we will be okay. Are we in District 45 collectively in denial? 89 clubs out of 109 qualify for a club coach. Only 11 have applied for a club coach. We are in a pandemic where people need to reach out more now than ever before. Can you imagine what 89 coaches working together collectively could do to District 45 and every club included in it? Especially when the main goal of a club coach is to have the club become distinguished. Now, each club can be appointed 2 coach per club. Now, can you imagine what 178 clubs, which is double 89, 178 club coach working together collectively can do to District 45 and every club included in it? When we allow people to discover what's happening to them, we equip them with the tools to be able to accept the changes needed to correct any situation. We lead people from a learning and discovering mode. That is coaching. Now, I have an exercise for you. One person will assign, actually, we're not that much a big group. We're gonna have to do it here because we can't go in a room. So I'm gonna probably do this very differently. I'm just gonna open up the floor to the questions I have. Your challenge is, what are some of the approach you can take to have the member discover themselves the possible source of club struggles? What are something we can do? Now, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna let Melinda, I'm gonna transfer, and actually I'm gonna keep this because I think I have to unmute the people in order to speak, but I'd like to have, if you have something to share on this topic, I would like to hear it. So I'm going to see if I can unmute this thing there. Go back to here. Yeah. Do I have anybody that can speak there?
And I can monitor it in chat as well. I think everyone can unmute themselves.
All right. So would you please unmute yourself and maybe lift your hand? I'm going to see if I can see everybody here. And I'll be open. Let's open this to discussion since we're not a big group and we can't go into a room. Let me see if I can pull this up here. What do you guys think? Again, what is the approach that we can take when we walk into a club? Okay, especially if you're an experienced Toastmaster, you're going to see things. What kind of approach can you take instead of trying to convince them what the problem is? I'm open to anything anybody has to say. We're going to spend at least probably 5 minutes on this. Karen Grant from Riverside, please share.
I think one thing you can do is you could do a SWOT analysis with your club. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so that the club can come together to see, what the strengths are of the group, what the opportunities are, where the threats are. And I think if you do that, then they can work together and perhaps be a bit more engaged. I know at Riverside, that's one of the things that we're really struggling with is we have a lot of apathy in our club. Everybody likes being part of the club, but they just kind of go along for the ride. So getting them to sign up for roles and to be active participants in the club, it's really hard. So you've got, a group of 4 or 5 people doing all the work for the club and everybody else is just along for the ride, and we're getting burned out.
Yeah. So what is something that can be done to have people discover the problems, like you're saying, a SWOT? What would be your approach to presenting that?
Well, if it were me, I would have a meeting. Obviously, it wouldn't be in person because it's we're in COVID time. But I would do that. I would ask them, okay, everybody, just throw it out there. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses?
Yeah.
What are our threats? I mean, a big threat for us is our club is going to fold. And what are our opportunities? I mean, there's a lot of clubs in our areas that are all struggling too. Maybe an opportunity is that we all merge and be one club, be one strong club instead of, four struggling clubs. Let's work together.
Okay.
You won't have burnout. You'll have more member engagement.
Okay. What is one of the tools that you can access that you know about that can help you accomplish this? Are you aware there are some of the tools that are available out there?
No, because I haven't read the Toastmasters manual. Sorry.
Okay, Eric, Erin, you want to go ahead? You had your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that we've used in our club is you can download on Toastmasters International a member survey, and you can have people fill it in, and they can rate how things are going in the club and the opportunities and offer suggestions. And that's a way to do it. And they could be anonymous if you wanted them to be.
Yeah, so you do what you call an internal audit. You have everybody kind of share in that internal audit. Another tool that I come across that we can access, or you can access, is also, there's a tool that you can download it. It brings you through all the different steps of what to look for, and it's like a survey of the club. The coach are usually who are taught to use this as to analyze. I would suggest not to use it that way. I would suggest to have the members sit down and look at it. And it pulls out every little thing that could be wrong with a club, and it helps them out looking at it that way. Do I have anybody else that
this is Cindy
runs into a
Lee.
problem and wants to share? Yeah.
Hi.
Cindy.
Hi. I think the dashboard also is a pretty powerful tool for folks to get comfortable looking at the data that's available there.
Yeah.
I feel like the absolute overarching reason why we have 89 clubs eligible for coaches right now obviously is COVID. And I think everyone's very aware of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like that statistic, that 89 clubs, I wasn't aware of that. Sharing that information with clubs kind of gives everybody an even playing field. It's like, hey, we're all struggling, and it's not okay, but it's okay, and we're all going to need each other's help. So I think that's a strategy I'm going to use for my clubs.
Exactly. So what happens when you have 89 clubs that get together with 89 coaches in those clubs to start working collectively? What do you think happens to the dynamic of those Toastmaster International? Everything will change. Because not one man puts a man on the moon. There's many. Joe, you had your hand up. The floor is up to you.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Grondin?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I want to compliment Karen on her comment, because, and also too, in your approach, allowing the clubs, I think that success plan is allowing them to come up with the plan themselves. And that success plan becomes so important for each club. And it depends how serious the clubs are going to take. And yes, you're right. You know, all clubs are struggling, and we feel, okay, we're on a playing field. And John Maxwell, you know, he will preach that there's got to be some sort of plan, an action plan. And Toastmasters International, I think they do a good job of trying to get the members. And I was a coach of a club, and I actually failed that club because I didn't allow them to come up with the plan. I thought I was responsible for the plan. And I failed that club. And I think that success plan is so important, and how, if it's important to the club, and who's going to take ownership. Lance Miller did a couple of workshops on basically who's going to take ownership for the club, who's going to be accountable for the club, because it's very easy to sit back and say, let's just do things as they are. But if the club then figures out that success plan and they take it seriously and then decide who's going to be accountable for what, I think you're going to have a lot of growth in your club. So that success plan allows the clubs to basically come up on their own. It doesn't have to come from the coach. I think when they come up with it on their own, there's more motivation, there's more inspiration for them to be successful.
Yeah, you're right. Thanks a lot, Joe, for sharing, and all the other ones. What happens also, and I find in when people are struggling, they're not in that dynamic mode where they're creating, and it's to get them out. And I honestly believe that if a club coach is there, it's another body, and they're not living the same situation. And the fact that they walk in, they're not part of the same dynamic. So they're going to have a different view, and they're going to have a different approach. That's where I honestly believe it can make a difference. Now I got a couple of more minutes, so we have a few minutes for anybody else that wants to share. Go for it. This is an open floor. Ingrid, you guys lived through some turbulence also, huh? In Florida.
Yeah. I wanted, let me just share with the team. So not only are we a relatively new club, right? Junior in terms of membership and also in terms of officers, But we also went through this COVID time. We went online, and our members are in many occasions a little older. So making the transition to online has been very difficult for them, number one factor. And number two factor is that our president-elect actually passed away from COVID recently as well. So
Yeah.
there was, a major demoralization of the club members for a while, and getting them back on track was very difficult. But I recognize that some of the ideas that you guys brought here is what I decided to rally the team and try to put in place, right? Okay, we are in this together. We all have a responsibility to make the club successful. What can we do that is within our power to actually get done, right? And believe it or not, the saving grace for us was the fall humorous speech contest and the table topic contest. That kind of galvanized the team. They rallied behind the two people that wanted to compete. And we, David was one of our judges, and we got different people from different places, and we are not out of the woods as of yet, but that has really given us an impetus that we didn't have before, and got us out of that mourning stage, losing our president and feeling sorry for ourselves. So, sometimes the help comes externally, sometimes the help comes from within, and having people like David that is willing to give us a hand was also very useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sigrid. Now, do you have, I'm going to say thank you for everybody for sharing your input. Melinda, can you transfer the screen to our next presenter?
You do, because you're host.
Okay, stop sharing. Got you. Okay, I'm going to do it right now. Oh, I share with. Give me a second. Not share. I gotta stop sharing.
If you go back to you stopped sharing. Now go back to participants and just find. Is Joe next?
No, it's Lorelei.
Okay.
Lorelei. I call her Lorelei. She says she's okay. Good thing. Okay, I'm sharing the screen with you now. Your host. While you set up your stuff, I'm going to do her introduction. Lorelei Grecian holds the designation of competent leader, competent communicator, and also P2. Her children call her extraordinary. Her peers love to work with her. She marches to the beat of her heart and inspires others to do the same. She dreams of a world where we can all work together as humans to live a higher quality of human existence. She joined Review Canusa Toastmaster in 2018 to get her voice. She has served as club secretary and now serving again as VP of Education. She has stayed in Toastmaster because inside it is like Doctor Who TARDIS. The possibilities to discover, grow, and create herself while finding her voice are infinite. Please help me welcome Lorelei Grecian with her workshop, Leveraging the Annual Learning Cycle.
Thank you, David. I just needed to find my mic. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. And I want to share with you what has been effective for me as a club member. And it also is something that brings out what Toastmasters provides for club coaches to help clubs to grow and recover from, well, many things, I guess. So David has shared the club coach qualifications and why a club coach is needed. And I'm going to look at how a club coach can help clubs in their club meetings, their membership, and the achievements of their members, and how they can help them with how they see their club in the future. And mostly just help you to see what resources are available to club coaches to do this. So in essence, when an individual joins Toastmasters, they want to learn. And we know that in order to learn, I'll say there's lots of research that has been done on this. In order for humans to learn best, they need to be able to be focused, and they need to have fun while they're doing what they're learning, and they need to do it in a safe and non-judgmental environment. And they also need to trust that things are under control by the leaders. So in providing that kind of an environment, the club coaches can help the clubs by using resources that Toastmasters International provides. They have resources for providing successful, high quality club meetings. There's a resource called Master Your Meetings that's available. They also have resources that are available for the club leadership to know the system, to know the Toastmasters cycle. And it's very important for your Vice President of Education to know the system. And club coaches need to really support their Vice President of Education, because they are the one who keeps the members learning, keeps them working on their paths, keeps them doing their projects and accomplishing the goals that they have set. And the leadership also needs to know the tools of success that are available for the club and how to use them. There's a variety of tools. There's the Better Speakers series, there's the Successful Club series, and the Leadership Excellence series. These are all available at Toastmasters International. I have a document that has the website links for them, and I'll try to put that in the chat when I'm finished. One of the most important things, and I'm going to just make sure I have my sound muted here if I can do this. Yeah, I have my sound. I just want to see you to see the visual of this, because this is what Toastmasters, oh, I think I have to restart it. And maybe it's not going to do it. This is what Toastmasters is all about. It's about when you come there, you just enjoy this experience. It's about serving the members and what they enjoy about it. This is a scene where in Wayne's World, I can't remember the guy's name now. It wasn't Wayne, but the other guy, he saw this beautiful person, this beautiful woman, and he was just like, whoo, blew away by her. Well, that's what the Toastmasters experience is supposed to be like for us. It's supposed to be a great experience, whether you're a member or whether you're a guest. So what can we do to help our clubs provide that kind of an environment? One of the things that we need to do is we need to look at the values that Toastmasters International is founded on, and that's integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And these are values that we want to see reflected in our clubs. We want to be able to go to a club and know that what the members are striving for is to reach these goals. And while they may not have arrived, sorry, somebody's coming in the door. While the Toastmasters clubs may not have arrived at that place where they're emulating these values, the fact that they're striving for them is very important. We want to be able to know that our members are entrusted to each other and that we care about each other as well as our guests come.
Joe and I actually protected your.
Just a second. I don't know if I have control over that right now. I think they muted themselves. And I'm not going to list all of the things that are there, but to know those values of Toastmasters International and for us in our clubs and as coaches to strive for those values, there are, let me see, there are benefits to those values, and the benefits are that we work together and we do have that safe environment. We have that environment that's productive. Sorry, somebody else is trying to come in. We have that environment that is safe and where we are appreciated for what we're doing for each other, and we are acknowledged for the accomplishments that we are achieving. So it's important for us to put those values, present those values to our clubs. One of the things that I quickly had to do as a member in Toastmasters International was I needed to learn the annual cycle of Toastmasters. There is a cycle there that if you've been in Toastmasters for 10 years, you know it. But if you're there only for 2 weeks, you don't know it. And the cycle is of having awards, membership campaigns to invite for members to invite new guests to our club, or whether you're going to do it now, we can do social media campaigns, these kind of things. So we have a cycle where from August to September is the Smedley Award, and from February to March is the Talk Up Toastmasters Award, and in May and June is Beat the Clock. Now, the way the Toastmasters has gone in my club is that when your new members are voted in May, and then they begin in July, our club usually takes the summer off. And we don't work on our club success plan until we come back in September. And we've lost 2 months of planning, and we've lost part of that time to do that membership campaign. So as a club coach, it would be important to keep your members, especially your new executives, working on the club success plan. And I know these are called contests, they're membership contests. I encourage you to call them campaigns, not contests, because contests has just a connotation around it that it becomes competitive. And I don't know, but I know in my club, I don't want that kind of spirit. I want us to be collaborating with each other and working towards having a team spirit and supporting other members in their growth and inviting new people in. One of the things that Toastmasters also encourages, well, obviously for pride in one's own accomplishments, and that's mostly because we put the effort in ourselves, and to have that pride is important. It's also important that our clubs, the members, help each other see what they have accomplished, because sometimes we don't really see what it is that we've done. So this is where encouraging the evaluations and feedback is really important, and announcing when members have completed levels and when they've accomplished projects and have gained some kind of award in what they're doing. In the visions of the club, this is related again to the club success plan. The club coach really needs to help the clubs to develop a sense of what they want their club to be like. And this is where they need to encourage their club members to have a vision of what their club would be really like if it was the best club ever. And 2 questions that I would encourage club coaches to ask the membership, and I'm going to ask you in a few minutes just to think about, and we'll discuss it, is what needs to be done in order to have your club operate like you envision it? What kind of learning needs to happen for the club to have a culture of quality meetings, as well as a quality culture, like how we greet each other, how we share information, how we support each other in the club. And this is what the club coach is there to help get the leadership stir this attitude and atmosphere up of being supportive and in the campaigns and in the education. And it helps to bring the club success plan to life. And in finishing, and this is the questions that we'll go into discussion about, is what would your club culture and meeting quality need to be like for you to invite your most favorite person in the world, in the whole world, to become a member of Toastmasters? And what would you then need to do, which would be related to your club success plan, in order for this to succeed? Thank you. So I think because we can't go into breakout rooms, we'll just have a discussion and share.
Yeah.
And so what would anybody can speak of this? What would your club culture need to be like, or your meeting quality need to be like, for you to invite your most favorite person to become a member in your club? Melinda?
I used to be part of a club where I was so proud to bring people. I wanted them to see how I was spending 4 hours a month, because we had biweekly meetings. And it was exciting and enthusiastic, and there were always so many people there that you could take the night off, and people were so friendly to the guests and happy to have them, and they never ever had an issue with membership, but they were so welcoming and didn't pressure anybody. So it was something really wonderful to experience. I've also had the opposite where I was embarrassed when I left with my friend and they would never go back. So we don't always think about that first impression, but you only get one chance.
Yeah. Joe, you were next. Go ahead, Joe.
And that's a great question, Lorelei. And I always feel we had 2 guests at our meeting today, and I'm always wanting to make sure that the meeting runs so well and it's perfect and they'll be impressed. And I think that 2 elements, I think, in the culture of any club, if you want them back and to join, is that they're having fun. And I think Melinda alluded to that. They're having fun. There's a learning that happens. If you have those 2 elements in any meeting and anything we do, they're going to come back because it's going to be memorable for them. And the fun aspect, I think, has to be woven into that. Like we have themes for clubs and taking accountability for making sure each meeting there is some learning that happens, that they walk away with something. So fun and learning are the 2 that I would say.
Thank you, Joe. Fun and learning. Yes, I agree. Anybody else?
I think I agree with, oops, sorry. Forgot to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
So I totally agree with both Melinda and Joe. And I think to add to it is to show that it's a place of support and non-judgment. And when people are providing evaluations, that they're doing it in a positive and helpful manner, with using a point to grow or something to challenge, but always in a positive, non-judgmental way, so that guests can see that they feel safe, that they'd be safe there and never have to worry about somebody saying something negative about them.
Yes, so it's supportive and non-judgmental. Thank you. Anne. David, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I always go back to the first time I was exposed to Toastmaster. And I remember going there at the first time and I was impressed, but not impressed at the same time. I believe Toastmaster were all going to be dressed in business-like people. That's my projection I had of Toastmaster. When I arrived there and I saw all these people that were like commonly dressed, all kinds of mix of people, and they were having a good time. And I remember leaving that first meeting and didn't know what it was there, but there was something there. I kept going back until I figured out. What really impressed me the most is the courage they had to stand up and speak. I was terrified. But I noticed what was happening is the culture in the club was safe. It was encouraging. And they made it so simple, like there was no stress for anybody there. They encourage you to step up and make mistakes. And when I go back and I walk in the plug, I am always looking for those things. And if they're not there, well, I try to create them as much as I can. But that's what attracts people is fun and when they're growing internally because they're learning. To you, Lorelei.
Thank you, David. So we've heard, so far I've heard fun and learning, encouraged to step up and make mistakes, supportive and non-judgmental. Those are all good qualities to have in your club culture as well as in your club meetings. My other question was, what can you do in your club success plan in order to foster that kind of meeting and quality in your clubs? David?
Sorry, guys, I had to find my microphone. I have two screens here. There was one time I remember when Doug Jones was our president. Every meeting he would say at the end, bring a guest. He said that for every meeting till the end of the year. I remember we were not to 12, but we were not far from, below. And in the year, we had over probably 25 to 30 people in that club. And it was emphasized, this was to bring members, bring your friends. And unless we tell people or we talk about these things, it never happens. But again, you have to have a culture you're proud of. And when you're proud of what your club is, people come and they join, they become members. It's to create that culture. Go ahead.
Anne?
One of the other things for me, I guess, is practice what you preach and lead by example. So if you have an idea of what your club should look like, well, you have to be there to lead the way or to support your members. And my God, what was the other one that I said? Lead the way and practice what you preach. But yeah, so yeah, it's been a long day.
Lead the way.
Right?
Thank you, Anne. Yes, lead the way, practice what you preach. And David said, invite a guest, invite a guest. So when I think back to what I mentioned about the values and the Toastmaster values that we want to have in our clubs, when we look at those values and we look at where we are, we can always look at it and see, where can I grow? Where can I grow? What can I do to help there to be more respect in the club, help there to be more excellence in the club, help there to be more service and integrity. So in closing, I guess I will turn the machine back over, turn the TARDIS back over to someone else. David, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, Lorelei, you turn it back over to me.
Okay, I just need to,
sorry, turn it to Joe.
Okay.
We're gonna, I don't have the time here. Can somebody tell me what time it is?
It's 7:53.
7:53, and we can go over. And if anybody wants to leave, which I doubt anybody will want to leave when Joe is speaking, but if anyone wants to leave, we are recording this. Joe, no pressure. You don't have to go over, but we always love your messages. So
if it's 8 o'clock, 7 to 8, we still have about an hour, right? So we have time for a break, right? Why don't we take a break of, let's say, 10 minutes? You guys want to make a coffee? No. Can you do it in 5? Go to the bathroom, do your stuff, and come back. Let's take a break, grab a water, and come back, and then we'll start the introduction with Joe. So I'm going to put this in small view so I can see my time. I have 7:54 here.
Yes.
So why don't we come back about 7? I would say about 8:05, and we'll get going. Okay?
David, I'm sorry. I was thinking we were done at 8. I apologize.
No, no
I was
problem.
cutting Joe really short.
No, you know, no. You know, what a great presentation, Lorelei. What a great job. You really did. She was afraid to come at the beginning. Look at that, eh?
Well, you
I'm-
both did a great job, and
Yeah.
Lorelei, bang
Oh,
on.
yeah.
You knocked it
Bang
out of the
on.
park.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know, eh? We grow, we learn by doing, and I knew you could do it. Here you go.
Do we want to
Go ahead.
pause the recording for the break or keep it running?
Keep it running. Might be
Okay.
some interesting stories in here. You never
Okay.
know. It's a break time.
And
So
is
you
it
guys,
Lorelei
we
or
have,
Lorelei?
everybody's kind of logged off, I think.
It's however you want to say it,
How
Mom.
do you
I
say it?
told you that.
I usually don't.
I loved your wheel.
Lorelei, she's been called everything, I guess. That's what she was telling me.
Yeah.
I used to be a trainer, and that's what I would say. I would say, "Hey, how do you pronounce your name?" And someone would say,
Yeah.
"Whatever way you want." And I always used to say, "Well, tell me how you want it pronounced, and then everybody you work with will do it that way." But yeah, that wheel, was that your creation? Is that something you said I need to put this all together for myself, or did someone else
Yes,
show
I
that
did,
to
I
you?
did say that. I did say that to myself a year ago, and then I did it this past summer.
That's wonderful. I love that. What a fantastic thing to share with newer members who, I mean, even a seasoned
Yeah.
club growth director. I would love to have something like that. We should
Yeah.
really put it on. You should do something and we'll put it on the website because that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I tried to make-
patent it. Lorelei patent that thing.
I tried to make it on like a Word
Yeah.
doc, a graphic, and I just could not get a graphic.
Yeah.
You know, it would be easy to do in Canva, don't you think, David?
Yeah, it can be done in Canva, or I mean, if you know how to use Adobe Illustrator, that's a great tool for creating stuff. But Canva, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff in there. It's pretty simple. I mean, it depends how I don't know. I still prefer Adobe Illustrator because you do some incredible stuff with that. Canva, you're very limited what you can do unless you buy their version. And I have not worked with their version, so I can't comment on the paid version. Yeah. Anyway, but I would patent that thing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm sometimes surprised at the resources that Toastmasters has and then doesn't have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They
They
have
could
a lot of stuff. They
Yes.
have a lot. It's just
do.
when you go looking for it, if you don't know what you're looking for, you can get lost. And
Yeah. David, the survey, I want to give everyone the link. Can
Yeah.
you tell me what it's called so I can Google it? I'm trying to capture a little bit. I'm going to share the notes with everybody. So if you have anything you want shared as notes to everybody afterward, anyone on here, just put it in the notes as takeaway.
What are you asking me for?
You said that there was a 3-question, was it the 3-question survey?
From me?
Yeah, you said that you wanted the club resources. Sorry, I have 3 screens, so I'm trying to look at the right one, but you're over here. The screens or the, I think you said there was a resource that clubs could give to their members that had 3 or 4 questions on it.
Yeah, that was mentioned. It's the membership.
Talking about, Melinda, is let me go get something. I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. Words and titles. I remember documentation, what it looks like and stuff.
I
know
think Lorelei.
Somebody mentioned the membership survey, member interest survey, I think, and I'll add it to the document I have here. I'm trying to.
You open the right stuff. I'm gonna find exactly what you're talking about because we have still a few minutes. I don't have 8 o'clock yet, so we're gonna go at 8:05, right? I have it here. I have a list of stuff that I have here.
I'm a person who comes prepared. Like I have everything I need. I have snacks, my phone.
Yeah.
I don't have to move for hours.
It's nice. Club coach, I'm gonna look, okay. coaches too.
I can't believe I was thinking it
This
was done at
stuff, a
8.
lot of people use.
Oops.
I'll admit, I don't know if I don't remember seeing that member interest survey before. So it's kind of nice to have.
It's
Yeah.
trying to find where I put that, because what happened is in this training you can only cover so much stuff and in that amount of time. And I have a list of tools that people can actually go download and you can actually use when you're doing coaching. And
Yeah.
this is, you know, the amount of tools that we have that's specific for specific jobs. During the year with the training we're putting in place, eventually I'm going to cover it at one point, the whole thing. But the thing is if the coaches are a coach and they're reaching out to me, I'll tell them exactly what copying they can use. But the one I'm talking about, it's a diagnostic. It's one of them that as a coach, you walk in and you go through this list and it helps you find the problems. But doing that's okay. But if you're going to sit down with the people and say, these are all your problems, that's what we don't do. You actually sit down with people and have them discover what it is. And while Joe's doing his presentation, I'll find it. And,
Okay.
I'll bring it up to you. And I know you guys seen this document before. I'm just going to go ahead.
I don't know if the member interest survey, what you were talking about, is it the same as what Aaron was talking about? Because I just put a link in there. See if that's the one. Maybe you were both talking about the same one and I misunderstood.
Yeah, look at this. Let me try.
If you copy that,
If I can go see it.
the link
I mean,
that
if
I
you
put in,
punch in club coach, yeah, I got it. I'm just trying to see what it is.
when she
My
said
internet's
member
slow as a
interest
biscuit.
survey, I just Googled that. But if it's a
the
club
same
coach,
one she put in. Because I looked at
No,
both.
that's not the same. That's not what I'm talking about. I'll go
Okay.
get my documentation. Okay, make sure I don't give the wrong information.
and what's
Okay,
on it?
let me have
You
a
said
look.
club coach. I can Google for you too.
It's one of the tools. Yeah, if you go on Toastmaster International, you enter club coach. It brings you to certain tools, and there's a survey there that it's a one of tools.
Oh,
I just have it in a folder. I just gotta find the right one.
I think it's
just
on
what
my
it is.
desktop.
And
There is a club coach questionnaire
yeah.
to figure out
When
if
it goes-
a club is really struggling.
Yes, because I
Coach
downloaded
tool.
everything that
I think I
was
had
related to it. Let me just see where it is. Club
I have some here that coaches can use. The moment of truth is a good one. How to rebuild a Toastmaster club. That's the one I talked about. Master your meeting. Moments of truth handout. That's another one. And but the whole thing, that the approach I'm trying to get to people to understand is you don't go in a club as a coach and you point everything that's wrong. Once you see them, you bring the tools to have them discover it. That's the whole different thing when you're coaching. Because can you imagine me walking into a business and having all the leaders there, sitting down with them, and I start pinpointing what's wrong with all of the business? It doesn't work. My goal is to bring them to work as a team to discover the problems. And my goal is to give them the tools to do that. Once they do that, they work there. Once the blockage come off, the mental blockage, they discover they're all intelligent people. What happens, they get stuck and they start finger pointing. Nobody's being creative, nothing's being done about the problem. They're stuck. And anybody that's struggling, when you go into business, you go into club, it's the same dynamic. You have a lot of psychological, mechanical, mechanism in the back that's happening in people's mind. So how do you unlock that? Well, you get people all relaxed. Hey, listen, we're gonna have some fun no matter what we're living right now. We're gonna move forward and we're gonna work together. My goal is here for you to tell me what the problems are here, because you guys know what the problems are, but they're not looking at it. They're focused on something else. So as a coach, that's our job. And what my whole approach is, how you go in there, you're gonna see things. Don't tell them what you see. Bring them to see it. Then you have a power, you have a company, and you're doing things. There's nothing that feels better for people when they're accomplishing stuff. And especially if you get them to do it as a team, then you have synergy in there, not the same dynamic anymore. So that's what a job of a coach is to do, is to bring about that type of attitude in a struggling club. So you take down the barriers and what's blocking everything, and you move forward. But when are we done? 5 minutes, another minute, then our break is done, Joe. So I'll be introducing you. I don't know if everybody's still back, but if we're recording, I'm just gonna, once you're doing your presentation, I'll look for the documentation, and in the end, we should have a bit of time. I'll bring it up. But that's the one. Once you go through it, it helps you look at what are some of the problems that can happen in a club. But it's like anybody that has experience going to walk in there, they're going to see the problems. The thing is pointing them out to the people is not going to help them. It's showing them how to face them, how to fix them. That's how you go about doing that. And it takes time and it takes training. Make sense? Maybe I said too much there.
No, I think Ann just found a club coach troubleshooting guide.
You got it. That's the one I'm talking about. All right, that's the one. You go with that?
It says, yeah, a scoring rubric to help club coaches determine corrective actions while in discussions with a struggling Toastmasters club.
You got it. That's the one. But the approach, Derek approach will not work. Maybe with some, fine, but a lot of them will be blocked. Nobody wants to say they're having a problem, especially, that way. Some are open to it, but most people that are really struggling situation are actually have the guards up. So if you take your approach, it's a sure win. But that's a good one. The thing with that is you bring the people to sit down and look at it. And they identify the problems. All right, so we're at 6. Joe, it's your time. Do we have everybody back, Melinda?
I think so. Let me look at the gallery.
Joe, I see your presentation is up.
Yeah.
Well, what did I do here?
Okay, are we ready to go?
Yeah, I'd say we still have about half off camera. Let me just see.
It might be still in listening mode because I said 8:05, right?
Yeah, let's do it then. We're Toastmasters. We're ready to roll. I didn't want anybody to miss any of the presentations. However, we've given them a buffer minute and a half. So
yeah, okay.
Let's rock and roll.
Our next presenter, my friend Joe Grondin, DTM, accredited speaker, is a motivational speaker who advocates for children. With over 30 years of experience as an educator, he is the author of the book, Living in Harmony with Our Children and Speak to Reach. Joe is a 2-time finalist in the World Championship of Public Speaking, one of 88 speakers in the world who holds the accredited speaker designation, and is a professional international speaker. Joe cherishes any opportunity to present in front of his fellow Toastmaster, even though he will be evaluated by many. He has been a member for 19 years.
Uh-oh.
I think we might have just lost David.
Oh, there he's back.
There he's back.
Sorry, guys. Joe, did you hear my introduction?
Oh, we heard enough.
No?
You stopped at 19 years.
Please help me welcome Joe Grondin with his workshop, How to Grow Through Conflict.
That was one of the most delayed introductions I've ever heard. Thank you very much, David, and fellow Toastmasters and guests. It's so good to see all of you here. It's such a privilege. I am married to my soulmate. Her name is Gwen. We've been married for 37 wonderful years. I met her at the most romantic place imaginable. Yes, you guessed it, the local pub. Do you think, being married for 37 years, there could have been a conflict or two Of course there were. You see, I would be the person that would push that conflict aside to ignore it, thinking it would be easier, but it's not. Now picture this. My wife and I are on our way back from vacation. My wife is driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and it's getting dark. I look at the gas gauge needle and it's getting close to empty. Let's face it, it's on empty. And I say to my wife, Gwen, we should stop at a gas station because we're going to run out of gas before we get home. And she looked at me and said, no, we got plenty of gas. Don't worry about it. Well, I break out into a cold sweat thinking I'm going to push that car to a gas station or home. So we have a conflict and it gets pretty heated. And I look at Gwen and say, you think you're always right. And she smiles and says, no, just when I disagree with you. As we're coming over the ridge of a hill, there's a gas station. All the lights are off. My wife, Gwen, looks at me, looks at the gas station, and says, that gas station is closed. Wanting to be right at least once, I looked at her and said, no, it's just not open. I don't think that helped my cause at all. Do you think as a club coach, you're going to deal with conflict? Of course you are. One of the major reasons why people leave Toastmasters is because there's conflict. And there are major tools that we can use. Again, I would rather push that conflict aside. But I learned as a leader in the education system and from gurus who are experts in conflict resolution, I have learned that we grow when dealing with conflict more effectively. Both parties grow. John Maxwell once said that if you're going to face a conflict, make sure you care about the person that you're having a conflict with. Totally blew my mind. If I'm having a conflict with someone, I'm not thinking that I really care for that person. I'm going to tell that person exactly where it is. But if we care for that person, it brings on a whole different discussion. And we both walk away growing and being better human beings for it. Now, I am going to have help in this presentation. I am going to use people that are weaved into this particular presentation. I'm going to use John Maxwell, Winning with People. Much of his material, or a good chapter of his material, is on conflict resolution. I'm going to use Bobby DePorta, who does a lot of brain research out of San Diego through the Learning Forum. And a big portion is conflict resolution. What does that look like? And I'm going to look at taking material from Dr. Carl Jung, Hippocrates, Myers-Briggs. All of these people will be woven into this presentation. You know what? Just like what David did, I'm going to inject a little bit of Joe Grondin in this presentation. And those that know me know that I like to have fun. I like to be creative with these presentations. So the 4 tools that I think we can use to face conflict and club growth, you folks are going to be right in the middle of maybe conflicts in the clubs. These 4 tools, if we can use these tools, whether it's in Toastmasters or whether it's with our families, wherever it is, these tools have been proven effective in resolving conflict and growing at the same time. Tool number 1, how to communicate clearly. Tool number 2, how to seek to understand. Tool number 3, how do we open that front door to help resolve that conflict? And last but not least, number 4, how to say sorry. Because we all know that just saying sorry doesn't cut it. So let's talk about these 4 tools. Let's get started. How to clearly communicate with the person that you have a conflict with. What does it mean to be clear? My brother-in-law, Stephen, has a beautiful motorhome. It is beautiful, 32-foot motorhome. And he's driving and I'm in the passenger seat, just having the time of my life. We come to a stop sign. He says, Joe, look to your right and see if anything's coming. And if anything's coming, let me know. I said, okay. I said, Stephen, there's an 18-wheeler coming our way. It's coming at a fast pace, but I think if you put the pedal to the metal, you can beat that 18-wheeler. Oh, nope, too late. He looks at me with frustration and he says, Joe, if it's clear, just say clear. Oh, okay. Clear. Wouldn't it be wonderful if communication can be that clear and that simple? There are two types of communicators in this world. There are visible communicators and there are invisible communicators. And it's really important to be visible. And I'm going to show you an example. David, I want you to unmute yourself if you're muted. We're going to do a little role playing here. Let's have some fun. David, are you busy on Friday night?
Why?
No, that's not the question. Are you busy on Friday night?
No.
You're not busy. Great. I have 2 gift certificates for 2 free meals at the Keg and a free movie. My wife and I want to go and take advantage of that, and we want somebody to babysit our children. Would you mind babysitting our children?
I want to do that one. Huh?
Was that visible communication? No, it wasn't.
No.
Let's try it again. David, are you busy Friday night?
No. Yes.
You are busy. Oh, great. I have 2 gift certificates for 2 free meals at the Keg and free movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to give that to you free of charge to take your wife out for a nice evening. But since you're busy, well, let's not take advantage of it.
No.
So that is the difference between clear, invisible, visible communication. If I want to be visible, now David asked a very good question. Why? Because I was being invisible in my communication. Here's what I could have said. David, I have 2 gift certificates for 2 free meals at the Keg, free movie afterwards. I want to give it to you and your wife to take advantage of. Would you like to take advantage of that?
Yes.
And I'm sure the answer is going to be yes.
Yes.
Visible communication. When we talk about communicating and communicating clearly, when we're confronting that conflict, we have to be very clear in what we're saying and what the conflict is. That's the first tool. Be visible communicators. The second tool, seek to understand. Seek to understand. I know we've seen this, it's been cliche, but seek to understand. And I think there are 2 parts to this. Part number 1 to understanding is understanding the different personality types. And this is where I'm going to draw in from Dr. Jung's work, Myers-Briggs, Hippocrates. This is work that they have all done, and they've come down with 4 colors. 4 colors. And you may have already been exposed to these colors. But to understand the personality types makes us understand how we're going to clearly communicate with that conflict. Now, there are 4 colors. A lot of you know that I like to be creative whenever I present. These 4 colors, how many of you know the Big Bang Theory? Raise your hand if you know what the Big Bang Theory is. All right. I watch reruns of Big Bang every night. It's hilarious. Lots of fun. I am going to take 4 characters from the Big Bang and correlate each color to these characters. Keep in mind, we all have these 4 colors within us, but there's always one color that's predominant in our personalities. And you may notice it in a meeting. You may look at a person and say, oh, he must be red, or he must be green, or he must be yellow. And that way we know how to communicate as club coaches. That's good to know. So let's take the 4 colors And let's look at the different characters from the Big Bang Theory. So let's take a look at, first of all, red. Now, red personalities are the ones that will say, get her done. They want to check off that to-do list on their list, just get her done. If you're dealing with a person who's predominantly red, they want you to be good, be brief, and be gone. They don't want you to waste your time and any details. Just let me know what you want and then get out of here. The character from the Big Bang Theory that I correlate with red would be Bernadette. Bernadette. Oh yeah, I picture Bernadette looking at Howie and said, just get her done. Get her done. Don't want to hear any excuses. Just get her done. That would be Bernadette. Now let's look at yellow. Now, a lot of you can relate to yellow because you're party animals. Toastmasters are party animals. These are the ones that like to have fun. They want everybody to be happy, 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 happy. And they have big ideas, but don't quite know how to get to that big idea. They don't know the details to that. And the character from the Big Bang Theory, and you may have guessed it, Penny. Penny wants to be a famous actress, but she doesn't know how to get there, but she wants everybody to have fun. She'd be the center of a party. She's the one who would say, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. And she will come up with all these big ideas, but not quite know how to get it. Now, keep in mind, red and yellow are extroverts. They're extroverts. Now let's talk about the greens. The greens, we're getting into the introvert field. And the greens, they're introverts. They want everybody to feel good. They're the ones that would want everybody to have this I feel good inside. They don't want to offend anyone. They want I feel good. And a lot of you know that I like people to feel good. I even have a feel-good dance that goes along with that. Because if people say, Joe, how you feeling? I will do a dance. Just nod your head if you want me to do that dance for you. I have nobody. Okay, I have a couple nodding their head. Okay, here we go. I feel good. Oh, I feel so good. Huh. Oh, I feel so good. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is what greens want people to feel. Inside. They don't want to offend anybody. Again, they're introverts. Now, the character that I best correlate with green in the Big Bang Theory is Raj. He's the introvert, but he wants people to feel good. He has to have a drink in order to talk to a woman. That would be Raj. Greens, when dealing with red, sometimes there will be that conflict. Now, keep in mind, greens, they want people to feel good. Reds don't particularly care how good people feel. Greens are introverts, reds are extroverts. If there's going to be a conflict, which sometimes could arrive in Toastmasters clubs, it could be between a green and a red. If somebody's a strong green and somebody is a strong red, those two people are probably going to have a conflict. Now we have, last but not least, we have the blues. Now, these are the ones that are the logical thinkers. These are the ones that will have to know what the big idea is and every step, every logical step to get to that big idea. They are the logical thinkers. And I know that when Lorelei's pointing to herself, I think she knows what they're talking. How do we get there? Don't just give me the big idea. How do we get there? Now, you probably have guessed from the Big Bang Theory who that person would be. Penny, but it's not Penny. It's Sheldon. It's Sheldon. So Lorelei, you can relate to Sheldon. And Sheldon, of course, coined phrase the word bazinga. Bazinga. So here we have blues, who are, again, introverts. We have yellows, who are, blues are extroverts. Yellows are, Blues are introverts, yellows are extroverts. I'm getting confused between my X and N's. There's going to be conflict between blues and yellow because you know why? Yellows, happy people, have the big idea, don't know how to get there. Blues need to know how to get there. So if blues are going to have a conflict with somebody, so Lorelei, look in your club and see who your yellows are. So if you're going to have a conflict with somebody, it's probably going to be with yellow. And it's going to change the way we communicate. To go into a meeting, and you can get, there's a survey, it's free of charge. It's called Insights. And Insights will have a survey that you can actually give your club members to decide what, it might be an interesting exercise for your club members to decide what predominant colors are your members. And if you're in the executive or leadership or a club coach, that is good information to know. So when you go into the club, you know, have a good idea who the reds are, the yellows, the greens, the blues. Sometimes you can pick them out. And that changes the way we communicate. That allows us to clearly communicate, oh, that person is predominantly blue. They need to know those logical steps. How can I help them with that? So all the different colors, it allows us to communicate differently. It's so fascinating. And you can go more in depth into the colors. Some workshops use animals, some use other, and they can even divide the colors into 2 or 3 in each color. It's fascinating work, and it works. It works. Now, the second part to seeking to understand is understanding their world. Understanding the person you have or the people that you have a conflict with, what is their world like? Because perception is different between both parties. And that's a lesson that I needed to learn when I was teaching. I was teaching high school. One of my students, his name, Hao Bui, a Chinese student. I teach Hao in the classroom and I coach him on the soccer field. We had conflict over time because he was just scraping by in my course. And I said, Hao, you're not working hard enough. And Hao would say, yes, I am. I'm working hard enough. I said, no, Hao, you're not working hard enough. And we would have this conflict back and forth until one day I said to Hao, I said, I think I know what the problem is. And he looked at me and said, what, coach? And I said, I think you're lazy. If you could have seen the hurt in Hao's eyes, he looked down, he looked up, and he said, Coach, I have not missed a class. I have not failed an assignment or a test. I have not missed a practice. I have not missed a game. And I have to go home to my family who owns a Chinese food restaurant, and I have to work for them 40 hours a week. How can you call me lazy? Sometimes in a conflict, the problem can be you because we don't understand totally what the world, we have perceptions. Dave does a lot of work on perceptions. Great presentations. We all have our different perceptions, but if we get into their world a little bit and see where they're coming from, that is truly seeking to understand. And then on top of that, if we know the different personalities and how they communicate, that also is part of that understanding and dealing with conflict. Clear communication, seeking to understand. And how do we, the third one, how do we open the front door? I call it OTFD. How do we open the front door so we can have that conversation? John Maxwell says we have to have some sort of response from the person or people that we have a conflict with. But how do we open that front door to that conflict? Here's an important key to dealing with conflict. When we speak, the most important word that we can speak in a conflict is the word I. It's not you. It's not them. Because then we start pointing our finger and the walls go up. And then there's no point in going any further. The key word is I whenever dealing with a conflict. So what does open the front door, OTFD, stand for? Basically, what do I observe? What do I think? How do I feel? What do I desire? That's opening the front door. What do I observe? What do I think? What do I feel? What do I desire? That is part of opening that door, making sure that the most important word is I. To give you an example, my wife demonstrated this technique perfectly. My wife and I are proud members. My wife and I are proud members of the Dieppe Golden Age Club. Yes, lady, you heard right. We're proud members of the Dieppe Golden Age Club. We are going up in the world. That's for sure. Now, every year, they have a Christmas party and ballroom and Latin dance afterwards. It's so much fun. I know David's been to some of those dances, and they're so much fun. My wife and I get our tickets. We're sitting at a table with 6 other women. Average age, 90. The lady beside me, her name is Carol. She looked up at me and said, "Sonny, what is your name?" I looked at her and said, "My name is Joe." 5 minutes later, she looked at me and said, "Sonny, what is your name?" I said, just think ordinary Joe. And you know what? She didn't forget it. But picture this, we're at a table. I'm at a table with 7 women. I'm the only male that's going to be at a ballroom and Latin dance. My dance card is filling very quickly. I foresaw a conflict arising from the situation from my wife. And my wife looked at the 6 ladies and said, "I noticed that you all want to dance with my husband. I think we should come up with a plan. Because I would feel sad or disappointed that I don't get to dance with my husband. So this is what I want. All I want is to dance the cha-chas and the waltzes with my husband. All the rest of the dances, he's fair game." What just happened there? My dance card filled within 1 minute. Now, when I took ballroom and Latin dancing, the first words out of my instructor's mouth, "It's important that the man leads and the woman follows." I think he lied, because that night I didn't do any leading. I danced dances that I didn't even know I knew how to dance. Everybody was happy. I was exhausted. The young GJ comes up to me and looks at me and says, "Look who's the chick magnet now." But when my wife discussed with the other members of opening that front door, what to observe, what I observe, what I think, what I feel, what I desire, that opens up the discussions, and it doesn't point fingers at anybody, and it doesn't raise the walls. Because if this is done well, then both people will grow, and both people walk away being better human beings for it. So clearly communicate, seeking to understand, opening the front door, OTFD, opening the front. Most important word is I. The last but certainly not least, is how to say sorry. How to say sorry. Is it enough just to say sorry? I don't think so. I think there's more. There's more. There's 4 parts to an apology. And it's important to truly listen. Dean Musk, a politician said, "If we want to persuade other people we have to use our ears to truly listen. Because sometimes, and as I mentioned before, sometimes you'll find out the problem is you. To give you an example of my listening skills, and I'm told by a reliable source, and my wife, I'm told by a reliable source that my listening skills lack a little bit. Now, we're in Ireland a long time ago when there was no pandemic. There's a beautiful castle behind us. And my wife said, let's take a picture, a selfie with the castle in the background. I said, yes, okay. So I get my cell phone out and I put my cell phone up and I'm just about to take the picture. And my wife says, no, turn the phone vertical so we get the castle in the background. I looked at her, a little bit confused. So I did this. She says, no, turn the phone vertical to get the castle in the background. I'm getting frustrated. So I do this. She says, no, Joe, turn the phone 90 degrees so we get the castle in the background. So I do this. I said, honey, I don't think this is going to work. She says, dear, may I please have the phone? I hand her the phone and she does this. Ho, vertical. You see, I was about to point my finger to my wife that she wasn't explaining well enough. And that was causing the confusion. That was causing the conflict. But the actual problem was me. I was not listening. Sometimes I'm told, stick my finger in one ear, then maybe it'll stay. So I had to come up with an apology. So what does that look like? And it's called a 4-part apology. And we call it all about my relationships. All about my relationships. John Maxwell, when he said, when you have a conflict with someone, make sure you care about that person because it's all about my relationships. And all the way through this apology, this sorry, the most important word is what? It's I. All about my relationship. It's a 4-part apology. AAMR. All about my relationships. The first part, acknowledge what you did. Acknowledge what I did. Apologize for it. Make it right. Recommit. This apology is so crucial in the whole, it's not just saying sorry. There's 4 parts to it. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out. It's even been said, this is a part of having an action plan. Saying sorry, what is the action plan? When you go into your clubs, what's the action plan going to be whenever there's conflict? There's got to be something that comes out of it. It's not just sorry. Sorry, there's got to be a plan to go with it. To acknowledge, I apologize, I make it right, and I recommit. I acknowledge. Gwen, I realize that I am not listening quite intently when you give me instructions. I need to listen and focus. I truly apologize for not listening. Now, the third part, make it right. There's 2 elements to this. You could ask the person how you could make it right. And I would ask my wife, how can I make this right? And she might give a suggestion and I will turn around and recommit. I will, whatever the suggestion is, or I can come up with the action plan myself. That's how that works with the 4-part apology. Making it right and recommitting, those are 2 most of the important steps of the 4-part apology. And it's all about my relationships. Remember, I think it's so crucial that when we deal with a conflict, we truly, truly care for that individual. So both parties can grow, walk away with our dignity, and we're going to walk away learning more about how to apologize. I acknowledge, I apologize. How do I make it right? I recommit. That's part of it. And it doesn't, it looks like a lot, but it's not. After this apology, you now have a plan to make sure it's not going to happen again. So the 4-part apology. You see, fellow Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, to truly care for the person or the group of people that you have a conflict with means that to communicate clearly, be a visible communicator. Make sure all the information is out there, as transparent as you possibly can. If you're invisible, it's harder to be clear in your communication. So tool number 1, be visible in your clear communication. Tool number 2, seek to understand. To understand the different personalities, the different colors, puts a whole new slant to our conversation. To walk in and who is predominantly yellow or predominantly red or green or blue. That allows us to be able to communicate at their level. Not that it's lower or higher, but at their level. And that way they know you truly care for them. And to understand their world. Because ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you will find out that you're the problem. I told you I failed at coaching a club the first time I was a club coach. I failed them. I was the problem, not them. I was the problem. And when we discover that, then we start making changes and we start growing. And how do we open the front door to that conversation, to resolving the conflict? And if we open that front door and use the most important word, I, and you're taking most of the accountability, or not all the accountability, making sure the walls don't go up, you open the front door to that conversation, then you have a productive conversation. And last but not least, how do you say sorry? There's 4 parts to an apology. How to acknowledge, how to apologize, how to make it right, how to recommit. These are all tools that will help us deal with conflict more effectively. And I think if we can use those 4 tools, both parties will walk away growing and being better human beings. And I have a feeling as club growth, as a club growth person going into a club, you're going to help your club and you're going to demonstrate it. You're going to model it. I know Ann talked about modeling and demonstrating. And I think that will help your clubs be more prosperous and attracting more members. And as guests come in and they see the process in action, it's going to be, and it's already been mentioned, it will be a safe environment. That's, ladies and gentlemen, how to grow through conflict. Right back to you, David.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing. What I'd like to do now is turn this. Joe, can you transfer the control to Melinda? I don't think we need to share anymore. Oh.
Yeah, sure. Just let me.
Melinda, what we're going to do now is we have time, I do believe. Let me minimize this screen so I can see what we got. We got 8:42. So we got about not quite 20 minutes to open the floor to anybody that has any question to any one of the presenters. We have, or if you want to ask Joe something, Lorelei,
David,
and or myself, we're going to open the floor.
David, do you hear me? Hello, everyone.
Yes,
do you hear me?
I hear you very well.
Yes, so I do apologize. I just want to tell you something. I'm not sure, but maybe there is a mistake in the website agenda of the D45 Toastmaster. I'm now become the president of the club Riverview Canusa, okay? And I was looking for the D45 club president monthly peer call, and it was scheduled for tonight. And then I missed one of my favorite club officer speech, Lorelei. And I was waiting. I had to call other club officer to check and double check. Yes, I believe there is a mistake in the regarding the schedule of the D45 club president monthly peer call. That should have maybe done tonight. I don't know. Anyway,
I'll send a note to Richard on your behalf.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Melinda,
Thanks for letting us know. Anybody has any questions or anything to Joe, myself, or Lorelei?
Lorelei, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about the recording. Will that be posted on the 45 YouTube channel?
Yes. Yep. And a link will be also put on the website under webinars. But it'll be, I'm going to send the recording. I saved it to my cloud so that I don't have to wait for it to upload and do it. Anyway, I'll ask Richard if he can post it within 24 hours.
Thank you.
So I just want to say that Joe, you have done a great speech. It is maybe the last speech, but anyway, it was a good speech, and it is good to remind everything. So it is emotional intelligence. It's good to talk about that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So many helpful tips in there, because I think we all deal with conflict somewhere and in some way, and it's nice to be reminded about the I. I definitely took some mental notes myself because we all deal with someone difficult in a volunteer organization, and it's really hard when you don't have an HR department and you're not getting paid and everybody has to get along, but it's so much better for everyone, including myself, when I can just step past my ego and do what's best for the club. So that was a wonderful reminder.
So the next speech is my ego is my enemy or not?
There you go, I'm in. You record it and send it to me and I will post it on our coaching section. Hey, it's a good idea.
Hello, everyone. Just to let you know that there is a question in the chat box, if you could read it out.
Okay. Can we have more examples of visible communication when asking a stranger for a favor, Joe?
And that's a great question. It's one of those things in the back of our minds that whoever we're talking to, whether it's a stranger or not, is to be able to think about what information does that person need in order to have that conversation. I think too often we leave out, and I think there's a thought process involved. And I remember a stranger came up to me and I didn't know who he was, but found out that he was homeless. And he came up to me and didn't say anything. And it sounded like it was sort of a broken French. A couple of words came out. I said, "Oh, tu parles français? Ah oui? Quel est ton nom?" And we had a conversation. And then in French, he was able to tell me that what he wanted, of course, it was money, but that's that clear communication. If you're talking to a stranger, and I'm an introvert at heart, and that's a good question for me also, because when I go into a room, my first instinct, if it's all strangers, I will back up into a corner. So now my wife, who is an extrovert, who has taught me how to go into a room, not necessarily work a room, I think that's not a good phrase, but to walk up to people and start the conversation of, okay, my name is Joe, whatever, I am a Toastmaster for the past 19 years, take interest in the other person. Now, if it's a conflict and it's a stranger, then that's when this technique becomes so important, to be a visible communicator. So, and the only thing you have to go on is the information that you have. I notice, I think, and I'm feeling, and this is what I want. That opens that door. You can only be visible with the information that you have. And whatever information you have in the back of your head, by using the word I, that makes you accountable for how you perceive the situation. Now, they may come up with other information that is more visible to the conversation. So whether it's a stranger or not, always rely on the information that you have and put it on the table as much as you possibly can so the other person can react and respond. There's a question that they asked me if I've done the John Maxwell training. No, I'm just an avid reader of John Maxwell's information. I have not done the training. I love his information, and I think it's so relatable to a lot of things. And I do admire him as a speaker and as a knowledgeable leader. There's somebody here that has, can we go over the 4-part apology? Sure. I think that was from Annie. The 4-part apology, all about my relationships, the AAMR. The 4-part apology, first of all, acknowledge what you did. And that's a big therapeutic step. I'm going to acknowledge what I did wrong. And then I'm going to apologize. Because sometimes we want to suppress that, but to apologize for what I did, it's therapeutic for me because I'm now admitting openly, this is what I did. So acknowledge. Second part, apologize. I am so sorry. Now the third part is to make it right. Make it right. This is where the action plan comes in, to make the situation, how to make sure this doesn't happen again. And it goes back to David's presentation. I am taking ownership for this. It's more motivating to me because I'm the one that's going to help come up with the plan, and the person that I have a conflict with, we're going to come up with the plan. And once the plan comes up, then the last and final step, the last words, I will listen more intently. I will get my reports in on time. I will. That's the action plan. So now that's integrity. Do my actions match my words? And that's how we can gauge that last step. But now the person you have a conflict with now has an action plan. It's in their mind. So if my reports are late all the time, the next time I'm going to make sure those reports are in on time. So that's a recap of how to apologize, the 4-part apology, AAMR. Acknowledge, apologize, make it right, and reconnect.
Yeah, I had it brought it to my mother last Saturday. So I don't even know.
You know what? I'm just going to add something to what Joe was talking about, my 5 cents. One of the things that happens between conflict too is somebody's button's been pushed, a trigger has been activated. And usually the activation of this trigger is something that happened to us, and it could be anything. But when you get to be upset, the thing to do is to go back and ask yourself, why is this upsetting me? Why is this person bothering me? And most of the time, if you take a deep look inside, it is something that's tied to an event that happened in our lives that triggers our feelings and sentiment to these peoples. And in looking at these things, we can actually look at the situation quite differently. We find a different focus by actually doing that. We kind of understand, maybe try to make sense of what it could be. We're disappointed, it could be we're angry, we could be, but these emotions are real, but they actually come from a different source that sometimes that's not really related to, it is related to the conflict, but it's actually a trigger that's been activated in us that makes it worse than what it is. And again, we fall into perception, we fall in defense mode, and this is what creates some of the conflicts that are existing. And it's actually a mirror image of looking at ourselves first, like Joe says. And my wife is very solid woman. She puts up with me. Anyway, I turn this back over to you, to the floor. My 5 cents worked.
I just want to say quickly that what you just said actually connects to what Joe said earlier in his presentation when he says the person you have conflict with, think about them in a caring way.
Yep.
So it almost all
Yeah.
connects, because when you said that, I thought of somebody that really grinds my buttons, and then I linked it, and then I thought, why do I care? And it, anyway,
Yeah.
I hope someone else is making that connection too, because it's interesting, all this insight. The most important person really is I. It's the only way to get out of that conflict.
How you see it, how you perceive it, and that's how you actually defend it. And what creates a conflict going is when you start defending your reason for continuing the conflict instead of actually reacting to it and looking at it. Go ahead, I mean, it's up to you. Go ahead.
I wanted to say, so maybe we need to learn to go first and to have the courage to communicate with people to try to minimize conflict. I believe everything it is due of communications. And there are some people doesn't make the first step, the first step to do that. And that we sometimes we need to do the first step to how say that, to forgive what's happened before, because when we've got to minimize the conflict, it is always me, I'm right, not the other one. Okay, but at that time we have to focus about to be rational, to try to find out a solution, and for that it is to communicate in order to handle this kind of to handle this conflict and to minimize it and to create trust.
Oh gosh, Armin, trust is so crucial in that conversation. And if you're dealing with conflict, if the person on the other side of that conflict, they can trust you, there are so many ways that that conflict can be resolved. So I'm glad you mentioned that word, trust.
True.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to add anything before we wrap it up for the evening? Lorelei?
I don't think I mentioned it in the presentation that I gave, but the moments of truth exercise is really important for coaches to bring that tool to the clubs to help them get through conflict as well. So just encourage you to look at that with even if you don't have a club coach, like find a way for your executive to get it out there.
I just want to say too, with the moments of truth, practice it with someone, because I've sat through the moments of truth many, many times, and I've sat through moments of truth that are delivered the way some of the presentations were delivered tonight. And then I've sat through someone reading it in a monotone voice to check it off the project list they're working on. So if you're going to take the time to present it, make it mean something and make it have value to the person who's receiving it, because that is an invaluable document if you really understand what you're presenting there. Sorry, go ahead, Anne.
I was just wondering, some of these club coach materials, are they available in French? Are any of these available in French? It's kind of hard to coach a club if all your material is in English only, and you have a French club.
Yeah, but you are in PEI, Anne.
My club coach is not in PEI. My club is not in PEI.
And will you send me an email? Yeah. Not that this is a commercial, but I work for Xerox, and we have a new app that's called Easy Translator. And
me too.
So give me a list of the top 5 documents that you would like me to start to attempt to translate. I don't know how effective it will be, but we'll give it a shot because people pay for it. So I have it downstairs for free. I will get it translated and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, we can see.
It's supposed to be better than Google Translate.
And Google Translate has improved a lot over the years.
Doesn't Toastmasters International, don't they have a lot of documents translated in 6 or 7 languages?
Not all of that stuff. The other,
No?
I find the other, I use District 61 a lot as well because they have
Yes.
a lot of translated documents.
That's what I was going to say. Amy, is her name Amy Campbell? Club
Uh,
Growth. Yeah, Amy Campbell is Club Growth Director there. Again, remind me about translating documents and asking 61. I'll probably remember on my own. I'll actually write it down, but just so that it doesn't fall down my to-do list, remind me, because I get a lot of things coming at me.
Thank you.
Relating to this concern, okay, with regard to this, about what we're talking about, the French language. I know someone who would like to join the Toastmaster in Moncton, you know, Greater Moncton, and she's looking for a Francophone club. Do you know where I can suggest her a Francophone club, please, if you know?
Send me a message, Amin, because I'm a member of a French club in Northern New Brunswick.
Okay. So,
Send me a message and we can connect. There's a meeting on Monday. She can come check us out.
And Kathy, oh yeah, everyone sees Kathy's Wicker said there's 9 pages of resources in French. So you may have already looked through that, but I would definitely look through that.
I will. I think I may have gone through them all, but I'll check again.
So does anyone have a question about the presentation before our 3 fabulous presenters leave us for the evening? It is 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Atlantic. Okay, well, with that, I just want to say thank you so much to all 3 of you. Each of you offered something unique, but a really amazing perspective, and every piece, all 3 puzzle pieces really fit together and made an extremely valuable message. I think more than just coaching, Lorelei talked about culture, Joe talked about conflict resolution, David talked about several of the different coaching aspects. There's so many wonderful things. I'm actually going to go back through this recording on the weekend because there were so many notes I wanted to take when each of you were talking that I just couldn't get to. So thank you so much. It's clear how much work and commitment you put into this presentation, and your commitment to the success of the Toastmasters and members and clubs of District 45 is absolutely clear, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great night, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye. Cheers.